President Trump is not quiet about his criticism of the Biden administration. In fact, he's usually quite the opposite. There is arguably, however, nothing quite as harsh as Trump's anger over Biden's DEI policies. Well, in a News Nation exclusive, senior national correspondent Brian Entin spoke to a manager at the Federal Farm Bureau who was blowing the whistle. He says a Biden-era law appears to be helping all farmers, but in reality is only helping some. And he showed us the documents to prove it.
When former President Joe Biden left Washington, D.C., he was leaving behind a DEI secret involving American farmers and $800 million in taxpayer money. And a United States Department of Agriculture whistleblower is now sounding the alarm.
It was to pay off anyone who wasn't a white male's loan. That was the only qualification for this loan forgiveness.
And what was the reaction?
So it was really silent. They were trying to keep this hushed because of the obvious implications of race-based loan forgiveness.
Race-based loan forgiveness. It's in black and white, buried in the American Rescue Plan Act. The United States Secretary of Agriculture shall provide a payment in an amount up to 120% of the outstanding indebtedness of each socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher. The act explicitly lays out who's considered socially disadvantaged.
So just to be clear, if you were American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, or Latino, and you were in that group, you were told you didn't have to pay your bills, essentially?
Yes, that's correct, and that your loan would be forgiven up to 120% of the loan value.
To me, it was combating racism with more racism. I couldn't believe that it was happening in today's age.
James Dunlap owns a small family farm in Baker City, Oregon. He works 2 other jobs to keep his farm afloat, but did not qualify for the loan forgiveness because he's white.
I knew what they were saying was that minority farmers were going to have their loans forgiven for no reason other than they decided to, they being the government. So.
And how much money they had nothing to do with it?
As far as I understand, not at all. It wasn't about hardship. It wasn't about financial situations at all. It was purely what box you checked under that ethnicity line on your application.
If you checked a non-white box, you got the free money, no matter how rich you were. James and other white farmers sued the Biden administration and were successful. The loan forgiveness for any farmer who's not white was stopped. The judge writing in his decision, it was an actual constitutional harm that cannot be undone. And James and other white farmers will suffer the harm of being excluded from eligibility for that debt relief program solely on the basis of his race. That harm he has shown is irreparable. But this is where things get interesting. The Biden administration was not ready to give up. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act to help farmers who couldn't pay their loans. It was supposed to help all farmers, but News Nation has learned all farmers were not told about it. News Nation obtaining a copy of this email that was sent out to share information about new payments and or loan modifications that may assist you. But here's the catch. Our whistleblower says it was only sent to the minority farmers, a.k.a. the socially disadvantaged group. And he says USDA workers were even instructed to tell that group to stop paying their loans because they would still be forgiven. The whistleblower says none of the white farmers he works with received the email.
They got nothing. You know, it might not meet the legal definition of fraud, but it isn't right. It was discriminatory, it was unethical, and the people who pushed it are still in charge of the agency.
They're still in charge?
Yes. At our national office, they're still, Trump hasn't got rid of them.
We reached out to the United States Department of Agriculture. They did not respond to our specific questions or our questions about what the whistleblower said, that some of these DEI policies still remain in effect and in some of the documentation. But they did send us this statement, Elizabeth, I want to read to you in part. It says, it is absurd that while the Biden administration was driving up inflation, American taxpayers were forced to fund billions in woke DEI initiatives. No one should be shocked that Biden weaponized bipartisan farm programs to discriminate and provide taxpayer dollars to one group based on race and not on merit. On day one, Secretary Rollins issued a memo to rescind all DEI programs. Instead, USDA is reprioritizing unity, equality, meritocracy, and colorblind policies. And the USDA says they are also reviewing the Inflation Reduction Act funding to ensure that that money is now going out to all farmers equally instead of just one specific group.
All right. Brian Entin, thank you so much.